It is just gas. My parents ignored my pain to buy a phone charger. My appendix burst in the car. I called my bio dad. He saved me and won custody. My mom and stepdad have always disliked me because I look like her biggest enemy, my biological father. I didn't want to call them when I felt a sharp ache in my lower right abdomen in arithmetic class. After my forehead burned, I had to SMS the family group chat. It took 45 minutes to pick me up. Were you trying to skip school? My stepdad inquired as I got in the car. My sister turned up the aux before I could answer. I asked, "What are you even doing here?" "Happy, we were having a family bonding day." "That you interrupted?" Mom laughed. My gut hurt sharply and explosively, like it was being scorched. Mom turned from the front seat, her eyes narrowing as usual when she stared at me. "You better not be doing this for attention." My gray skin never stopped sweating. Every driving bump fired electricity through my stomach. That caused me to vomit. Greg returned a grocery bag without looking, as if expecting it. "My gosh," he said. "Your father used to pull this same dramatic BS." Sam's phone alerted him. Her phone was 10%. "My phone is dying," she wailed. This wasn't just regular upset. It was that calculated crying she'd perfected since she was 6. "Owen is going to FaceTime me in literally 20 minutes, and he'll think I'm ignoring him, and then he'll ask that girl from chemistry to homecoming instead of me." I could feel something inside me worsening every second. "Hospitals," I exclaimed. "Please." Mom and Greg looked. I got the same look when I asked to join the Disney family vacation. Same look as when I asked why Sam got a car for her 18th birthday but got a $25 card. "There's a Best Buy right there," Mom said, pointing to the right blue sign. Think I misheard her. "We can grab her a portable charger real quick." Despite pain and nausea, I lifted my head. "What?" she said. "It'll just take a second," telling Greg to go to bed. "Please." Number. Words barely came out. A closing sensation in my throat. Greg looked disgusted at me in the rearview mirror. "Stop being dramatic, just like your dad always was. 5 minutes won't kill you." They jumped right in. Mom opened her door. Sam ran out, still crying about Owen, and Greg locked the car with me inside like a dog, not their son. Pressure building up with nowhere to go replaced the sharp pain. I felt it like a water balloon bursting inside me. No relief, just wrongness. Fire spread from my belly to my chest. I knew what happened. Your body tells you when something ruptures, even at 18, without medical training. I couldn't type ambulance numbers because my hand kept moving. I saw Mom comparing 2 chargers through the shop window. Sam examined phone cases. Greg checked his watch because the game started at 5, not because he worried about me. I blacked out after hearing the car door open. "Greg, is he breathing?" Mom asked. "Yeah, but we have to go now, Sam." "But I haven't charged my phone yet." I woke up in the ICU 2 days later. I heard my mom's fake concern at parent-teacher conferences in the hallway through the medications. "We rushed here the second we realized something was wrong," she said. "We only stopped for 3 minutes because Sam has severe anxiety and needed her medication from the pharmacy." The nurse devoured it. "You poor things." It must have been so scary. Greg spoke. "We've been here every day." Haven't left his side. I realized I had to make my own way to justice. I knew exactly how. In our family group chat, I typed, "Thank you for saving my life, Mom." Then I sent something else. My family wasn't informed. I found my bio dad's number in Mom's old phone 8 months earlier and saved it under a fake contact name in case. I typed with shaking fingers. I struggled with each word because the painkillers were pulling me down. I almost died because Mom wouldn't take me to the hospital. "I'm in ICU. Please help." After sending, the message turned blue before my eyes got too heavy to open. I dropped the phone on the blanket, and it went dark again. Room was dim when I woke up. The sink has one yellow light. A man in dark blue scrubs worked the machines next to my bed. He had kind eyes and a tie. Name tag. He smiled when I stared. "Hey, you're awake. How are you feeling?" The majority asked that as a greeting without expecting a response. Tyler stood there waiting, looking at me like my answer mattered. "Everything hurts," I answered, stuttering. "And I'm scared to go home." His expression shifted immediately. Not shocked, but something clicked. He brought up the chair next to my bed and sat at eye level. "Can I ask you some questions about that?" I nodded. Despite my constricted throat, I needed someone to know. "The hospital takes patient safety seriously," Tyler whispered. "Would it be okay if I requested a social work consult for you? Someone who can help make sure you're safe and have what you need?" Relief was so overwhelming I almost cried again. Someone cared enough to act. "Yes," I said. "Please." Tyler clasped my palm briefly before standing up and writing on his iPad. "I'm putting that request in right now. Someone will come talk to you tomorrow morning." He examined my IV and adjusted something that eased my stomach pain. Try to get some rest. I'll be here all night if you need anything. I went asleep feeling safer than in years. The next morning, a woman with dark hair and a bun entered my room with a tablet and a nice smile. Her tag reads Samantha Burns, Social Services. She sat on the chair by my bed. Good morning, I'm Samantha. The nursing staff asked me to come check on you and see how you're doing. Her pleasant, professional voice made you feel like you could tell her anything. Can you walk me through what happened before you got to the hospital? Told her everything. About messaging the math class family group chat when the agony started. About waited 45 minutes for pickup. About Greg questioning if I was skipping school. About Sam's phone dying and Mom stopping at Best Buy for a charger as I vomited in the back car. About locking me in the car while shopping. Concerning my appendix burst and inability to call for aid. Samantha's expression was calm and friendly, but her fingers quickly scanned her tablet, taking notes on everything I said. She looked up with gentle eyes when I finished. The medical team documented your condition when you arrived. You had critical sepsis from a ruptured appendix, which means there was a significant delay in getting you treatment. She stopped before asking the crucial question. Do you feel safe going home? Wanting to say no hurt more than my incision. But I also understood what happened to youngsters who thought home was unsafe. Perhaps foster care or forced family therapy, where Mom would blame me for everything. Finally, I responded, I don't know, honestly. Samantha nodded like that explanation was enough. Her business card was placed on the table next to my bed when she rose up. If you need anything or remember something else you want to tell me, you can call that number anytime. I checked the time on my phone after she departed. I saw the alert then. My biological father, who I saved as Dave from school, texted me. I'm driving there now, 3 states away, but I'll be there by tomorrow morning. Are you okay? Please tell me you're okay. Before stopping, I cried. They dropped everything and drove through the night to get to me, even though they barely knew me. My mother probably watched cookery shows at home and complained about how I destroyed her week. I couldn't stop crying. Another nurse checked on me and inquired whether I was hurt. I shook my head because I couldn't explain that these were relief tears, the type that come when you realize you're not alone. That afternoon, I heard Mom's voice in the hallway before seeing her. She pretended to be pleasant with instructors and physicians. The one everyone thought was Mother of the Year. Greg's husky voice rumbled obscurely. Then they entered with Sam following, continuously looking at her phone. Mom wore her worried parent face, eyebrows furrowed and mouth down. But when she spotted Samantha's business card on my bedside table, her face transformed. Her jaw and eyes tightened. She read the card and looked at me with that face I knew too well. Who suggested I'd done something wrong by living? What's this about? She asked sharply, although trying to sound casual. Greg looked annoyed as he crossed his arms behind her. I maintained a neutral expression and speech. A social worker is helping coordinate my discharge care, making sure I have what I need when I leave the hospital. It wasn't a lie, just incomplete. Greg's jaw tensed and a cheek muscle leaped. A nurse passed by, looking into the room, so Mom couldn't react. Her grin seemed forced as she sat in Samantha's chair. Well, that's nice of them. We just want to make sure you're taken care of. Sam never looked away from her phone. She stood at the entrance, thumb scrolling, wishing she were anywhere else. I wondered if Owen contacted her for that FaceTime or if she was unconcerned while I died in a parking lot. I didn't invite Dr. Angelo Burns to visit during Mom's evening hours. My surgeon was tall with gray temples and worn eyes from too many emergency cases. He looked at my computer chart and read about my recuperation, primarily to himself. His next statement froze the room. The surgical notes indicate your appendix had been ruptured for at least 3 hours before you arrived at the hospital. He looked up from the screen, alternating between me and my parents. How long were you experiencing symptoms before you came in? The end. The moment I'd waited for since waking up and hearing Mom lie to the nurses in the corridor. I spoke clearly and calmly to ensure accuracy. I texted them from the school when the pain started. It took 45 minutes for them to pick me up. Then I asked to go to the hospital. But we stopped at Best Buy first so Sam could get a phone charger. They locked me in the car while they shopped. That's when my appendix ruptured. I observed Mom's face change color while I talked, then return red and angry. Greg held fists at his sides. Sam finally looked up from her phone, wide-eyed. Dr. Thompson's eyes changed despite his professional neutrality. He spent a long time typing notes in my chart. Still typing, he replied. I'll be coordinating with social services regarding your case. He went without telling my parents anything else. The deep, menacing stillness after he left seemed alive. Mom opened her lips to speak, but another nurse checked my vitals. Greg tugged Mom to the door, grumbling about coffee. Sam followed silently. She glanced at me before leaving. Her face changed briefly. Maybe guilty or afraid. Then she left, leaving me alone with the equipment beeping, my heart racing, and the realization that I'd started something irreversible. The machines beeped steadily as I counted the small holes in each ceiling tile square. My IV drugs made my body feel heavy, but my intellect didn't shut off. Tyler returned to my room at 9 p.m. to check my vitals. He softly adjusted things on the bed and wrote notes on his iPad. After finishing, he sat down in Samantha's chair like he had something important to say. He said he'd advise the other nurses and physicians to mark the delay in bringing me to the hospital in my file. He said the ER professionals recorded my condition, infection severity, and near-death experience. His speech was calm and professional, but his eyes were sorrowful when he claimed many people were worried about me. He said that in cases like mine where a child was injured, the hospital staff recorded everything. My throat tightened when he spoke something. He informed me I had people watching out for me and ensuring my safety. He said that mattered more than I estimated. He softly squeezed my shoulder before returning to the nurse's station. I barely slept that night. While my appendix ruptured, I saw Mom comparing phone chargers every time I closed my eyes. I continued checking my phone for Dad's response, but nothing. Part of me wondered if he'd come or decide I wasn't worth the hassle, like Mom usually said. Morning came slowly, the sky outside my window changing black to gray to pale blue. Around 7, a nurse brought me breakfast I couldn't eat because my stomach was still upset from surgery. While eating basic bread, I heard voices in the corridor and the door opened. Tall, maybe 6'2", the man who entered had dark hair with gray sides. After driving all night, his clothes were wrinkled, but his face was like looking in a mirror 20 years from now. Same nose, jawline, and dark eyes that Mom always said made her sick to look at. He stopped just inside the doorway and stared at me, his eyes getting wet. He crossed the room in 3 long steps and hugged me carefully, avoiding all the tubes and wires. His voice cracked when he asked if I was okay, and I couldn't answer because I was crying too hard. He smelled like coffee and the highway, and his hands were shaking when he looked at my face. We talked for almost 2 hours. He pulled the chair up next to my bed and held my hand while he explained everything. He told me how he and Mom met in college, how things fell apart after I was born, and how she blamed him for everything wrong in her life. He claimed she had applied for full custody and told the judge he was dangerous and had hurt her, but he couldn't prove it. The court granted her custody and supervised visitation once a month, but she relocated 3 states away without notifying him. When he found out where we went, she'd filed papers saying he'd abandoned me, and the new court terminated his rights. But here's what made my chest feel like it was caving in. He pulled out his phone and showed me 18 years of bank statements. Every month, he'd sent child support payments through the state system. He'd been sending money every month for my whole life, but Mom said he never paid. She'd bought Sam a car with my money, taken family vacations, and left me home with my money. I looked at those bank statements and realized my whole life had been a lie. He showed me dozens of letters he'd sent to Mom's address asking to see me, but she'd never responded. He'd hired lawyers twice to request visitation rights, but the courts wouldn't help without proof of the lies. He said finding me was like finding a part of himself he thought was gone forever. Samantha returned mid-morning and asked to speak with Dad privately. They left, and I sat alone with my thoughts for 45 minutes that felt like hours. I could hear their serious, low voices in the hallway. When they returned, Dad's posture had changed. He stood straighter, his jaw set in a determined way that reminded me of how I felt when I told Dr. Anderson the truth. Samantha sat down and said in her calm, professional voice that she and Dad had reviewed my post-discharge living possibilities. Given my medical care delay and safety concerns at home, she advised me not to return to Mom's house right away. Dad had agreed to stay in town, and she would arrange for him to be my temporary guardian during my recovery. She used words like home evaluation, child protective services, and family court. Each one felt like another brick in my wall between Mom and me. Samantha said a CPS investigator would need to visit Mom's house and interview everyone, which would take time. She promised to keep me safe, and I believed her. Dad took my hand again and I held on tight. Mom arrived for afternoon visiting hours and found Dad sitting next to my bed. I watched her face go through 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. Shock, anger, then this fake pleasant look she used when others were watching. She asked what he was doing here in a sweet voice that didn't match her eyes. Dad stood up and said he was visiting his son, and Mom's fake pleasant expression cracked. She started yelling about how he had no rights, how he'd abandoned me, and how dare he show up now. Dad's voice stayed level when he cited bank statements showing he'd been paying child support for 18 years. Mom went red and screamed that he was a liar, that the courts had terminated his rights, and that she'd call security. 2 security guards arrived, but not to remove Dad. Instead, they asked them to meet in a private conference room away from patient areas. Mom looked like she wanted to argue. But the guards didn't ask. They took my parents out, leaving me with Greg and Sam. The silence was thick and uncomfortable. Greg stood by the window with his arms crossed, not looking at me. Sam stayed near the door, thumb scrolling on her phone, but she glanced up and we met for a moment. Her voice was faint and little when she said she was sorry. She didn't glance up from her phone, so I wasn't sure if she meant sorry for the Best Buy stop or 18 years of watching them treat me like crap. Greg didn't say anything. Bio Dad stayed at a nearby hotel and visited every day during loud hours for 3 days. Dr. Anderson came by on the 4th day after I woke up and said I was healing well enough to go home. He gave me a long list of wound care instructions, including keeping the incision clean and dry and watching for infection. He also wrote prescriptions for pain medication and antibiotics, and explained activity restrictions. He also discussed diet, starting with small, bland meals and slowly adding foods back in. Samantha arrived with discharge papers and a plan, arranged with Bio Dad and the hospital social work department. She said it was to ensure I got proper post-surgical care and supervision during recovery, but we all knew it was to keep me away from Mom. She wrote down official words like adequate support and medical supervision needs in her reports. Samantha stated that Mom would get copies of all the paperwork and have the right to object legally, but for now, this was occurring. Mom objected loudly and promptly, showing up as I was getting dressed to go and threatening legal action. She said Bio Dad had no custody rights, that she'd sue the hospital, and that she'd call the police. Bio Dad remained calm while she yelled, telling her that he'd been paying child support for 18 years without visitation, that he had legitimate concerns about my safety, and that the hospital social worker's report supported his position. He said the medical documentation showing the delay in treatment was clear and she should talk to her lawyer before making threats. Mom's face turned purple and she looked like she might hit him. A nurse intervened and suggested Mom leave before security got involved again. Greg pulled her toward the door while she yelled about how this wasn't over, how she'd fight it, and how I was tricked. I sat on the hospital bed in Bio Dad's clothes and watched my mother walk away screaming. Sam followed them, looking at the floor. Bio Dad had rented a clean, quiet hotel room with 2 double beds with blue comforters, a small table by the window, and a wall-mounted TV. He'd stocked the mini fridge with ginger ale, crackers, and plain bread that Samantha had said would be easy on my stomach. He placed pillows behind me and made sure I was comfortable on the bed closest to the bathroom, then set up all my medications on the nightstand with his phone alarm system, programming reminders for each dose. He gave me the remote and told me to watch anything, but we ended up watching a cooking competition show we didn't care about. His checking on me every 20 minutes, asking if I needed anything, if I was in pain, or if I was hungry, getting up to get me more ginger ale without asking. And the way he adjusted my pillows when I was shifting around trying to get comfortable mattered. For the first time in 18 years, someone cared about me. I fell asleep that afternoon feeling safer than I'd ever felt at home. Kevin arrived that evening with a backpack full of homework and school gossip. Bio Dad let him in, and they shook hands. Kevin looked nervous meeting my real father. Kevin dumped his backpack on the other bed and started pulling out folders and papers, explaining what I'd missed in each class. He stopped mid-sentence and looked at Bio Dad, who was helping me adjust my pillows again. Kevin's eyes widened and he leaned closer to me, whispering, asking if this was my dad. When I nodded, his whole face broke into a huge grin. He said it was about damn time something good happened to me. Bio Dad laughed and gave Kevin pizza for dinner, asking what toppings he liked. We spent the next 2 hours eating bland food for me while they had pizza, Kevin catching me up on school drama and treating the situation like it was normal, like having my Bio Dad suddenly in my life wasn't weird. It made